The Beggar and the King, the short play written by Winthrop Parkhurst. So let us begin with this short play. What is this? The title, The Beggar and the King, suggests. The beggar comes in the beginning and later on we have the king. This beggar is given more importance by the writer than the king. In this whole play, that character of beggar is dominating. Winthrop Parkhurst writes this play about a ruler's attitude towards the serious issue of hunger in his kingdom. It expresses the author's sympathy for that melancholy of poor people in society. It has a subtle and symbolic meaning which explores the flaws in the administration and rule of the king. It has only one scene and three characters, namely the king, the beggar, and the servant. It is reprinted from Atlantic Book of Modern Plays in 1921. It may be now performed without royalties as it is in the public domain. Winthrop Parkhurst, his span of life is 15th October 1891 to 23rd September 1983. He was born in New York. He has been criticized for his bohemian outlook. He had sympathy for the oppressed and downtrodden people in society. His plays are full of irony, wit, and humor. He discusses the conflict between poor and rich in his one-act play, The Beggar and the King. He published the book The Anatomy of Music in 1930 and revised one volume of Encyclopedia of Music and Musician. He also worked on the 40th edition of Encyclopedia Britannica. He was an editor in the music and art departments of Newsweek magazine. He even worked as a stock market analyst in New York City. He died on 23rd September 1983 of pneumonia when he was 91 years old. There are only three characters in this short play: the king, the beggar, the servant. In the opening scene of this short play, or in the opening you can say of this short play, we have that means one king is there sitting on golden chair, golden crown is there on his head. He has one golden rod which is symbol of his kingship in his hand. So it shows that how rich the king is and how that the position of king is, of course, rich one. So the servant is there standing by the king and fanning him, and then that voice from the palace comes. Outside the palace, the beggar is there who is crying for the bread. He says, bread, 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 give me some bread. So here the king, who is there in the chamber of the palace, could listen the voice, and he is there irritated by the voice, and he asks to his servant about that voice. So the servant provides the information that it is a beggar. After knowing that the beggar is crying for bread, the king is again says that he dislikes the voice or sound of the beggar and it annoys him very badly. So he asks that servant to send that beggar away from the place. So the servant answers that so many times this beggar has been sent away from this place, but he again and again comes back and asks or cry for the bread louder than he did before. So with this information, the king becomes angry and he says that this beggar is very unwise fellow who is disloyal to me, who is annoying me in such a warm and very happy day, and that's why he should be punished. because of his imprudence or impudence, means he is not worthy and loyal to me. And in that way, even you can beat him, you can use the lash on him, he says. The servant answers or says to that O king, it has been done. So many times he is beaten, and then also he comes back, he doesn't stop crying. So this is how that it suggests that that person is very much hungry, that he doesn't bother even about that beating as well as that humiliation by the people. In this way, the king repeatedly asking to stop that person from begging. Finally, he asks people to cut out his tongue. At this time, this servant tells the king that even his tongue is cut, and so many times is cut, but after cutting that tongue, it comes out, and he comes and again he shouts for the bread. So this was shocking for king to know about this fact. What is that significant meaning of this particular dialogue by the author? That is, author says that the beggar badly needs the bread, and that's why he comes again and again and he is asking for the bread. So this is how author is very firmly telling that poor people, they should be helped by rich people, and if we humiliate them, they will tolerate because of their hunger. That's why in this short play we can understand that those there are two groups in the society, the group of have and group of have not people, and these people who have everything with them, they should help those who don't have anything in their life. So in this way, there is always that need of these poor people, and rich people should help them. So the king again and again telling to stop that beggar, he commands everybody to do that. Finally, the beggar is brought into the palace, and there is dialogue between the beggar and the king. The beggar says, O king, thou hast commanded me not to beg in the streets for bread, for the noise of my voice offends thee. Now therefore do I likewise command thee to remove thy crown from thy forehead and throw it from yonder window into the street. So this is how here we can see that actually the king is asking that beggar to bow down and touch his forehead to the ground, so that he can accept his that guilt. Guilt of what? Guilt of creating noise. But that beggar is not ready to do that. He says that if my voice annoys you, it's not my fault, and if you say to me to bow down, I will not bow down before you. And there one thing I would like to say you, that if my voice offends you, you should repent for that, because you are the reason of our hunger, and you should provide us bread, but you are not doing that, and that's why I command you to remove your crown. What it suggests, he wants to suggest, that beggar wants to suggest that a king is not worthy to be a king, because being the ruler, he is responsible for all the citizens in that nation or kingdom, you may say. The king here becomes more angry with this command, and in that way that king says, we shall see if they are, we shall see. So in this way, the king tells people to chain him or slain him, and finally the beggar says, I have required thee to remove thy crown from thy forehead. So if so be thou wilt throw it from yonder window into the street. So he again and again telling him to remove the that crown from his head. So king becomes more angry with this, and he says, you are that person who is haughty, who is not good, and you should be punished for that. So at this juncture, the beggar says, I will not harm thee now. I will only cry aloud in the streets for bread, wherewith to fill my belly. But one day I will not be so kind to thee. On that day my mouth will be filled with a rushing wind, and my arms will become as strong as steel rods. And I will blow over this palace and all the bones in thy foolish body. I will snap between my fingers. I will beat upon a large drum, and thy head will be my drumstick. I will not do these things now, but one day I will do them. Therefore, when my voice sounds again in thine ears, begging for bread, remember what I have told thee. Remember, O king, and be afraid. So this is how that firmness of beggar we can see, and he here was the king that if you will not fulfill my hunger, definitely one day I will haunt you, and you will become mad, and I will become that spirit who can even haunt after the death. So this is how that warning of beggar is there. The beggar again shouts, bread, bread, give me some bread. The king becomes here very restless, we can see. So he is there in doubt that whether he is afraid of that beggar. So the beggar says, bread, bread, give me some bread. At that time the king, with terrible anger, asks the servant to close that window, and the servant stands stupidly, and the voice of the beggar grows louder as the curtain falls. So here we can see that if that person demands that right thing, that it should be provided, and if it is not, definitely that can cause the doom of the provider, or that can be that end of the provider. So this is how that very truth, universal truth, is here provided by the author, and in this way he tells about the harsh reality of the world. So let us stop here.